Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Building Loved Businesses, the show where we share the stories of business owners who are building companies that are truly loved by their customers, their employees, and their communities. I'm your host, Nathan Schock, and today I'm joined by Addie Corby, the founder and owner of Little Sweets Cake Design, a custom cake and dessert business based in Milan, Illinois. Addie's story is a fun one. It's anything but ordinary, from being a high school art teacher to a side job doing bakeries, baking at nights and weekends, and even an unconventional business funding story that you are not going to want to miss. There's a lot here, and I'm really excited for this conversation. So, Addie, welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you so much for having me here.
You bet. So let's start at the beginning. As I mentioned in the opening, before Little Sweets existed, you were a high school art teacher. So
Yeah.
what led you into art and education?
Well, I was one of those high school students who I couldn't choose the right the right major that was going to make my parents happy, that'd make a lot of money, and I just loved art class in high school. And a lot of that had to do with the teacher too. So, very encouraging, very positive, and just kind of that environment that you like to spend all day in if you could. And so I was like, that's it. I'm not going to choose I'm not going to be a tech major or a doctor or whatever it was. And my dad was like, oh, fine. So I went to school to do art and design at Iowa State for a bit. And I decided I didn't want to keep doing that. So I moved back to the Quad Cities and started doing the education courses at the in the art department at St. Ambrose. So yeah, it kind of fell in my lap. I was like, I'm just gonna do painting, and then like I should probably take some other courses too. So I did the major double in education and in art.
Yeah. And then what was the path then to teaching high school art?
Yeah, so it was about 4.5 years, and I had to do some extra time with the student teaching situation because I did transfer, um, and I was all in. I mean, I was like, I'm going to be the best art teacher these kids have ever seen. They're going to love everything. And I was really young too. So, like no kids yet, just like super gung ho. And there is a teacher shortage, and there was back then too, back in like 2013. So I had multiple offerings for teaching jobs. But I took the first high school position I want. Well,
Yeah.
the one that I had in mind was high school. I didn't want to do elementary, so I took Muscatine, Iowa High School first, and I did that for 2 years.
And what did you enjoy about teaching?
Well, I got to do the art club because the other art teachers were older with younger, they had younger kids, they were busier, and I was
Mm,
like, yeah, I'm just going to I'll do all the things. I'll do the art club, I'll do the field trips. That was one of my favorites. Favorite aspects, of course, because anything they do in class is definitely more enriched if there's things they want to do outside of school.
mm,
So, yeah, I think the extracurricular thing was a lot of work, but it was worth it. That was the favorite. And then of course just like bonding with all of those kids that
mm.
need an adult. I
Yeah.
was like, I don't want to be your best friend, but I'll be close to a friend. And then you'll trust me and everything will be great. And I still talk to a lot of my students today. They walk into my bakery for tastings to do their wedding cakes and stuff. So full circle, it's very rewarding for everybody. But yeah, the whole teaching thing lasted about 10 years total because
Yeah.
I went back to my hometown to teach at the high school in the town I lived to after
Yeah.
Iowa. So,
And then what was it about teaching that kind of started to wear on you?
cell phones.
uh,
Yeah, it's dodgy if we get on that topic. But yeah, it was so hard to keep them engaged. A lot of teachers will say it's maybe discipline issues or it's administration or rules placed on teachers that are unrealistic or standards placed on teachers that are unrealistic. And those were difficult. I mean, anytime I was evaluated by somebody at my school, like a vice principal, they don't know how to teach art, and I was mostly ceramics, so that is also way over their head. They don't know what kind of equipment I need. I mean, it looks like I'm playing with mud. It's dirty. Like people throw away my stuff because they think that it's a pile of dirt. I'm like, no, it's clay. Please don't. But yeah, the number one thing though was trying to keep the kids engaged with the cell phone issue, and they have two of them, so you take one away, there's another one somewhere else, and you just spend so much time trying to get them to engage with their lesson or their project, and it's 50 minutes is all you get for the period. So
Yeah.
I think that was emotionally the worst part.
Oof. Yeah. I
So
don't, I've read plenty about that. I'm fortunate that my kids came along kind of just before that whole cell phone craze. There was
yep.
some, but anyway. While you were teaching, though, something else started to grow. You,
Yes.
as we talked about it, right? You started making cakes first for your daughter,
Hmm.
then some friends, and then it was like everyone. So, uh,
Hmm.
talk about those early days when you started doing some baking as what we now call a side gig, a side hustle.
Sure. It definitely snowballed. Even when I was younger, though, middle school, high school age, I was the friend that would make everyone's cake for their birthday. And the feeling when they they eat it, they're like, "This is the best thing ever." And I'm like, "It's really just box mix, but whatever." Put a little extra oil in there, and you think you got something real fancy. And just I kept that up for a long time. If I gifted things to my teachers, I would make them cookies that hopefully they would eat. Who knows? And my family members, like the older generation of women, always baking a lot of family recipes. I hope that trend keeps up. Like if I have grandkids, they're gonna want to use my recipes and things like that. But I made my daughter's first birthday cake, and I didn't know back then that a smash cake was a thing, because nowadays people order a separate little cake for their baby and they take it pictures while they eat it and shove their face in it. But I had made this like 3-tiered fairy garden cake for my daughter when she turned 1, and I took off, there's a little house on the top, and I took that off and I gave her the house. And as her birthdays kept coming, we'd invite all these daycare friends to the party and family and everything, and people were like, "Where'd you get your cake?" I was like, "Oh, I made it." So you love the bragging moment, right? It's very exciting when people like what you're
Mm,
doing.
yeah.
And then you post a photo on Facebook, and it's just, there it goes. I've got
Yep.
friends that hadn't been to the birthday parties that now want cakes for their kids. First time I charged like $150 for a cake, I thought I was going to be rich. I was like, this is the best. And then you feel, there's a little bit of guilt too, because you're worried that you're charging too
Right.
much.
Yeah. Little bit
And
of
so yeah,
little bit of imposter syndrome sneaking in
yes,
there, huh?
yeah,
For sure.
exactly. Yep.
Um, so you've got this main job,
Hmm.
right? The full-time job where you're having a hard time getting people engaged. The people who you report to don't really understand what or know what you're doing, and then you have this fun project
Hmm.
that is everybody loves. People can't get enough. It's taking off, and
Yep.
as you're doing that, when did you know this would go from fun project, or that it could be, that it could be something?
Well, at the time I was married while I was making cakes at home at night, and my ex-husband was very encouraging back then, which was nice.
Mhm.
And he was watching my skills develop. The orders are coming in, and he was like, "Hey, when you're ready, I think he said something like, I think you need to save up $10,000, and then we'll see where we're at." And of course, then it's a team effort, right? So I was like, okay, I can't just stop teaching because I'm the one paying a lot of the bills. So let's keep that up until I save up some more money. And then I got to the point where I was ready to get out of my house kitchen because technically back then it's not legal to make that volume of cakes in your home. It is now. People can do it now in Iowa and Illinois without any issues with the cottage laws. But back then, I'd spoken to the health department, and he was like, "Yeah, you need to either make a commercial kitchen in your house that is inspected, separate from your home kitchen, and then." I was like, no, I don't have space for that. And I moved into a church kitchen, and
Hmm.
yeah, it was, it's the passion project, of course, because
Yeah.
it, like you said, it's the one that gets people the happiest, right?
Yeah.
And everyone is involved. My family is all into it. Everybody wants to help out. My neighbors, my friends. So I had decided to resign from teaching in 2019. It was so right before
Hmm.
COVID. It was
Yeah.
really weird timing.
Yeah.
And that
Although,
was it. I just decided to take the leap. I like to jump and then build my net. That's my type. So,
yeah. Yep. Jump out of the plane, grow wings on the way down.
yep, you figure out how to
Um,
build them while you're flying.
yeah. So, I remember talking to you before, and that step into the church kitchen, it may not sound glamorous, but that was a big deal, right? That was kind of you say, the first step towards really making this into a business, something. Um, and what was it about that really felt important to you in the moment?
Well, it was legit at that point. It
Hmm.
was a business that could flourish with space because I had the whole basement to myself essentially. There weren't a lot of people around, especially during all of 2020 because they couldn't go to church in person.
Yeah.
And I had the whole kitchen. They had purchased a commercial fridge for me. I had, four ovens and 12 burners or something. I was like, wow, this is serious, because you go from your tiny home kitchen to that. So just that alone. And then, of course, it was inspected. The health inspector had everything, um, sorted out for me. I had a commercial dishwasher. That was nice. So,
Yeah.
yeah, the equipment is definitely a part of it. And then, of course, you can increase volume. And
Yep.
the only sticky thing was trying to get people to find me to pick their cakes up because I was in the basement and they don't know what they're doing when they get there. So
Yeah.
that lasted for about a year, and I
Yeah.
didn't have much cell service down there either, so that was tricky.
Yep.
But it was the right price. I think I paid like $400 a month. It's
Wow.
insane.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Yep.
So you just kind of, Addie, you just kind of flew through that whole, oh yeah, I quit my job in 2019.
Yeah.
Right. So what was it that finally got you to say, okay, I'm going all in on this, and I'm going to walk away from a stable paycheck and benefits. And there's lots of people out there, I think, today who are building these side hustles that they love more than their real job, right? But
Yep.
not real job, maybe that's not the right way, but
So.
full-time job.
Hmm.
And there's this, there's the go slow until you're ready, and then there's the just jump all in right away and figure it out. How did you navigate all that?
Hmm. I had a really good support system, and I think that makes the biggest difference.
Yeah.
So I was still married. My parents were excited for me. Um, I was at the point where I was independent enough. I was 30 by this point, I think, 29 or 30 years old. And, I didn't have any issues with, asking my parents for help or whatever. I think if I did at that point, they would have been like, yeah, no, you can't even pay your own bills. Like, don't even do this. And so just having all of those people around that are very excited and encouraging was helpful. And then I think a big thing too was my daughter was still little. I mean, at this point she was probably 4, and I could be with her more because she could come to work with me. That was another big thing. And this church had a playroom in the basement. um,
It
and
sounds like like they built this church just for you. It was like the perfect place.
pretty much, yeah, yeah. And my first employee had a daughter the same age. She would come play down there too. So she just bring her daughter to work.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, just it's hard to figure out exactly what I did to make the decision. I feel like it was all of the it was the environment at the time. It was the economy wasn't the worst, you know.
Yeah.
It was just other outside factors that helped me. And serendipitous too. I mean, there's things that came up that I was like, "Yep, this is fine. I don't have
Yeah.
any regrets." You just feel good about it, you know?
Okay.
I think it's hard to answer.
Yeah, no, I get it. I mean, I have talked to people in that same situation where just like it's just like this natural shift, and by the end, it's like, well, this is just what I do, right? Like
Mhm.
I do that. I do this now. Um,
Yep.
so
One big thing too is just making the choice to commit because we're afraid to
mm,
start it. We're afraid of failing. Obviously, that's a huge thing for everybody. What are people going to think if I quit my job? Or am I crazy? Am I going to be broke? I just, I was young enough to just do it. I didn't want to teach another 10 years. I didn't care about the 10-year situation. Um, yeah, I had to do it while I could. I didn't want to get too invested in the teaching thing, even though it was already 10 years total. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm good. I did it.
was
So,
there when you're in the process of committing, was there ever a little voice behind you that was like, oh, you're leaving the stable benefits and the career and the tenure, and this might not work? And once everybody buys a cake, then what are you going to do? I mean, what did you,
you know,
or was
I
it just,
if there was, I don't really remember it
yeah,
because I can quiet. I used to be able to quiet that really well.
mm,
And I was so excited at the potential of the things I could do that it was like the good anxiousness. So I would be just my mind would just be churning. I'm like, I can do workshops because I can still teach cake. You know, I could teach and do cake decorating. I can have student interns. I could do more weddings. I could do bridal expos. I could, you know, all of those things just got me going.
yeah,
So I wasn't like, oh ho hum, this is
mm,
gonna be so scary. But in another environmental factor was getting divorced though. That was the one thing where I was like, that's it. I'm not gonna I can't do this. I'm alone. At that point I mourned my business that hadn't really started yet. That was in 2019, right after
mm,
I resigned from teaching.
yeah.
So that was the
Wow.
speed bump.
Yeah. So lots of life changes at once, and then
Yep.
followed by COVID the next year.
Hmm.
Um, but I was recalling your husband's one piece of advice, that save up $10,000, and you had a pretty unconventional way of doing that. Not that they were necessarily, like it was connected, but maybe it was. Maybe just how did you fund your bakery in that sort of unconventional way as you made the move out of the church basement to your own space?
So I started a surrogacy process,
Yeah.
and that was just lucky timing as well because I think it was like September of 2019. I had a friend reach out, and she is a nurse or like the head of the department that does the labor and delivery in our local hospital. And she said, "Have you ever thought about being a surrogate?" And I thought, what a strange question. I don't even really know what that is. And at this point, I'm still young enough to do it. And she knew that I had my daughter at this hospital, and she knew the background of my pregnancy and my birth for me to be a good candidate because a lot of women say they want to do it and they just have had some issues before and can't. So I was like, okay, well, there's a green light there. Um, and I didn't have that 10 grand saved up before. I was close, I think, but at that point I was in the church and the overhead was so low that it didn't really matter at that point. And a couple months later, I was divorced, and then I had already started the process of becoming a surrogate. So it's for a couple in Chicago who had twins here in the Quad Cities before. They had twin girls. They reached
Mm.
out to my friend and said, anybody else that would want to do this? And she was like, I'll look around. And they picked me. So I had twin boys for them in September of 2020. And
Wow.
I used
Wow.
most of that money to buy into a bakery space that I'm in now. And that way I didn't have to take out a loan. So it's crazy, but it worked.
Yeah. And what was that like doing that in the midst of COVID?
It was terrible. I mean, in all seriousness, it was like the most stressful situation because I couldn't do anything with my daughter. Any doctor's appointments she couldn't come with. Everything is masked, of course.
Yeah.
And thankfully, my mom works at home, so there were sometimes I could take her there. Um, but I was working in the church kitchen on orders. I mean, as many orders as we could. It was obviously slow because of COVID.
Yeah.
So it was nice because I had my own little bubble in that regard. But I was very large, very uncomfortable, and the world around me was, closed down. So
Yeah.
thankfully, though, we had the embryo transfer done in January 2020. And
Mm.
everything was still open. So I went up to Chicago to do all that stuff. You do all of the tests and the psych eval and all the good stuff beforehand.
Yeah.
And then 2 months later, in March, it was like you can't go anywhere or do anything. So yeah.
Right.
And then when I gave birth in September, I couldn't have any visitors. They told me if my daughter wanted to come that she could stand outside the window. And I was like,
Yeah.
nope, that's not a thing. It's just, I guess she'll just stay home with her dad. It's crazy.
Mm.
So
Yes, but that, like you said, the serendipity of that timing allowed you to move into that commercial space in August of 2020,
yes.
right in the middle of COVID. So, what did those first few months look like in your new space?
Well, they were pretty touch and go. It was very stressful, and I was also at the end of the pregnancy and working
Mm.
on my feet a lot. And both twins were full term, normal sized babies. Um, my body's still sad about it, but we move on.
Yeah.
Um, and I mean, yeah, I mean, one day it was people can come inside if they stay 6 feet apart. The next day, curbside pickup only. It was
Mm.
a lot of back and forth. People were really excited that we were moving in. They thought we were going to have a lot of walk-in sales, and we tried, and then it would drop off because things would get worse with the COVID numbers, and then they would have a new regulation, and nobody was having events, of course, because they couldn't meet in
Yep.
large groups. A lot of the weddings that I had booked, though, thankfully could just move a new date. So that for a few years, though, that was really hard because we'd get
Yeah.
all excited about getting this order booked, and then they would try to cancel. And I had to have a very strict refund or no refund policy for the retainer. It's like we can't control what goes on with COVID, but I was very flexible with moving the date if they
Yep.
needed to. So it would just transfer to the new one. I had also had a business partner at the time that helped me buy in the space. So we leased the building, but we basically purchased all the equipment, like the bakery as it is. And so that was difficult on its own because of all of the heightened emotions with COVID stuff and, trying to staff and dealing with, different personalities. So it felt like it was a 10-year span in like 6 months. It's
Uh,
crazy. Yep.
well, enough about that. I don't need to make you reminisce on the bad times anymore. What did it look like then as you started to come out of that when things started to click?
Things started to click probably 2022, 23.
Mm.
Word spread more of the work that we were doing, and the biggest thing is referrals.
Yeah.
People had us for their wedding, and they're like, yeah, my friend's going to book with you too, or my sister's going to book with you too. And when that started to click, that was really nice. And then I was at that point, I was alone in the space too. I had bought out the partner, and that was a godsend. um, and I had a staff that was all, getting along great. We're all having a great time. And so that's when it felt like it was better. So it takes a while. It took a few years.
Yeah. Yeah. And you, you said that one of the smart moves you made early on was hiring experience.
Yes.
Um, Maybe talk about that first kind of pivotal hire and what that meant for the business.
Yeah, I got lucky again because there was a lady named Mary who caught wind of my business online. And I knew about her too because, when you start making cakes or whatever it is that you're doing, or you're going to look out and see who's doing what. And I will admit, I saw her stuff online. I was like, oh, I'm in trouble. She's so good. Like, it was one of those moments. And because she was doing the things I wanted to do,
Mm.
more like high end designer wedding cakes, um, large events, things like that. And when she saw that I moved into the space in Milan, she actually, I think, texted me. I can't remember. I remember exactly where I was standing when she texted me. I was in the middle of a grocery store aisle. And I think I like slammed my foot into the cart. I stopped so fast when I was walking. I was like, "Oh my god, this is Mary," and she was like super sweet. I'm like, "I don't even know if you know who I am." Blah, blah, blah. I was like, "Yo, I know who you are." I was so excited. And she had been doing cakes for at least 10 years at this point, and she was she had actually closed her own business because it became too overwhelming for all the loan, and then financially she was spending more than she was making on some things. And
Mm.
um, she was working at a bakery across the river here in Bettendorf, and she wasn't happy there. And so when she decided to quit, she reached out to me. So that was perfect because then her clients that she had following her were going to move to us, and that definitely helped get things kicking too.
Yeah. Okay. But you're the cake person, right? You got into this so you could make cakes that everybody would love. And now you're letting go of a little bit of that.
Just a little bit. At the
And
time.
yeah. And getting more into business leadership.
Mhm.
Right? And I see this again. People start a business and early on they're doing everything, right? They're doing all the bookkeeping, all the order taking, all the sales, all the whatever it is that they're doing. And now you're going to have to, in order to grow, slowly hand some of this off. So was that hard at that point, or were you just so excited to get married that you didn't think about it?
It definitely was not hard.
Yeah.
It helped free up a lot of stress because if I was doing all of the decorating myself, that took so much time. And I had two staff. That I had my original girl that was with me at the church. She followed me to the bakery in Milan, and then I had Mary, and they helped with the decorating, and it was like 2 or 3 days a week at the end of the week. So I had time to get things prepped and organized and just ready for them to start decorating. And then, at some point enough orders to where I was working on them too at the end of the week. And
Right.
I could kind of pick which ones that I really wanted to do. And then and usually what it is, it comes down to a decorating style. So Mary at the time was very traditional, very clean, classy kind of cakes. And I was like, that's all you, because it's going to look perfect and you're going to spend your time on it because you've got the time. And then I did more of the like abstract style, textured buttercream, fondant cakes, stuff like that, that were a little strange for her at first. But and now she's still with me. and she has morphed into doing more abstract stuff, which is really fun to watch. And she has a YouTube channel, so she makes cakes
Mm.
for tutorials on YouTube, and she has like taught herself all these new techniques. So yeah.
That's cool. That's cool. We'll
Mhm.
we'll include a link to that in our show notes so people can go
Yeah.
watch that. Um, how then, Addie, has as you bring on one person and then another, and how has your role evolved? I know you when we spoke earlier, you talked about really wanting to be intentional about culture and making this a fun and safe place for people to work. So just talk about that evolution of your role over the last couple of years.
It's I don't know. I don't think I give myself too much credit at making it a good environment because as we hired more people, their personalities brought more to the table too, made
Mm.
it more welcoming,
Yeah.
and it's just it's just too fun sometimes. We're like, do we get paid to do this? A lot of music, dancing, laughing, just ridiculousness, it to this day, which is which is great. And I think when my role started to change, it was just I had to I tapped into my inner teacher, right? Like I was told by students that I was too organized to be an art teacher, which that was funny. And so I kept that up. Of course, I'm in charge of, I do the payroll, I do the ordering, I do the invoicing, I do the tastings. And it's nice because that way I know that that's all ready and organized for everybody when they come in. And
Mm.
I was not sad to give away some of the tasks, like all of the baking,
Yeah.
because I've got one girl that's just like knocks it out so
Mm.
fast and efficiently, and she's very clean. And I'm like, "That's all you? I don't have time for that." And so if they feel supported in what they're doing when I'm
Mm.
there helping them, um, then it really helps the culture too.
Yeah.
So
And,
it just
and
feels
I,
it feels good when you walk in. It's got some magic to it.
I love that. And
Mhm.
I want to point out something you say too, because I talk to lots of business leaders who are concerned with culture fit, and that I get it. That's important, right? But I want people to think of it in terms of culture add. Like, what is this person coming in going to add to the culture?
Yep.
And so what you said really resonated with what I also believe, which is, bringing people in who are going to make this place fun to work so that we love
Mhm.
our work. Because if we love our work, chances are the customers are going to love what we do for them.
Yep. They can see it
Okay.
too. I mean, they see it when they pick their cake up and how excited we are for them to look at
Yeah.
the cake the first time. And yeah, it's fun. I mean, no one's sad with their birthday cake. You know,
Right. Yeah.
it's great.
Cool. All right. You mentioned earlier that you had to get out of a partner relationship, right?
Hmm.
And this is another thing I see a lot of times when people start businesses, they get a partner, and I mean, it's a big deal, right? Who you choose to partner with, and sometimes I think people get into that too lightly, and they think I need somebody to do this with me, and it's not always true, and it can be hard to blend working styles. So
Yep.
you had a business partner early on, and what did that experience teach you about partnerships?
Mm, yeah, I
Or maybe
definitely
just,
had never had one before, of course.
Mhm.
Well, and really though, like the space that was in Milan is not one that I found. She had found it. I met her through some other business endeavors. We had actually planned to do like a bake off competition together or something like that, and all those things got canceled because of COVID. And then she found this space, and she actually asked me if I wanted to move in. And so at first I was like, oh my gosh, like, that's so flattering. That she thinks I'm good at what I do, and um, this could be really great because we both did different things and as far as baked goods go, and we were going to, share the space essentially, but also collaborate on certain things. And we both needed each other financially too. I mean, I didn't want to go and drop all the money alone. That would have been entirely what I had made from the surrogacy, because I was also trying to pay my mortgage with the surrogacy because I wasn't getting any work, right? And everything was shut down because of COVID. So I didn't have all that money to do the buy in, anyways. Um, and I think I'm losing track of your question a little bit, but
Oh, yeah, maybe, and it's okay, right? Like, just walk us through the, like, kind of, like you talked about, there was real benefit there,
Mhm.
but then there was also, in our previous conversation, a lack of alignment about where you wanted to go from there. So just talk us through the end of that and kind of what you
Yeah.
learned.
So there was a lot of expectations that were not communicated. And when they were, I am a very passive person. And if I want to bring something up, I try to be really delicate about it because I hate confrontation.
Mhm.
This other person thrives on confrontation in a sense that it's like, oh, this is how I show my dominance. And so she would bring up an expectation in a very abrupt way that I would not expect. And it usually turned out to be pretty aggressive. And then it would end up in an apology and like, I'm so sorry. Like it was just a whirlwind of of emotions that just did not, they didn't have a place in a business, right? And I am, I'm a woman, so I am emotional, but I know that there's things that don't need a place in business. I think that like good emotions, like the excitement and the fulfillment you get from completing an order, or the people that you meet that make you happy, like there's a lot of that involved. But when you have the partner who has a different personality, then there's a lot of communication that has to happen. And sometimes it would just really catch me off guard that, like, oh, that's what made her mad. Oh, okay. So then I would pivot and try to fix it and kind of walk on eggshells a lot. You never know what's going to happen the next day. Um, there was a disagreement about something with our taxes, and that was kind of what broke the back here. It was like, let's just not do this anymore.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm staying here. I got an attorney and I bought out her half, and that was it.
Yeah. Good. Well, good for you navigating through that. And as we get toward the end here, Addie, just give us a picture of Little Sweets today. What does the business look like now?
Hmm,
What kinds of stuff
today,
do you do? What
yeah.
employees do you have? Yeah, just tell us about the business today.
So we just wrapped up 2025, and I had sent out 11 W-2s, and that was the most staff I've ever had. And they don't all work at the same time, so I've got some people that help with deliveries with our weddings, because there's some Saturdays in wedding season we do like 7 weddings. So we're all over town.
Mhm.
Some people are helping me with the baking process and just wrapping cake layers and getting them ready for the orders. Um, I've got some people that just do the decorating with the custom stuff at the end of the week. Um, we still do workshops. I have 2 workshops actually this week coming up for Valentine's Day. We still do bridal shows. We got 2 of them on Saturday actually. It's gonna be a crazy week.
Yeah.
And then, of course, still like baby showers, bridal showers, birthdays. Um, what else are we doing? We are
I
doing
got to.
some sales at a theater. There's a local theater. We're going to do their intermission dessert sales. That's 2 weekends every other month. So that's a new thing. We're actually going to start that this week too. So yeah, and I do seasonal retail. So seasonal for holiday walk-in items. So Valentine's Day, we'll have 3 days open where we'll have a case full of stuff. And people always ask for that. They wander in, they want desserts. I'm like, we just do custom stuff. They're like, oh, you're always closed. I'm like, well, we're definitely not closed. We are here working all the time. But yeah, so
Fun. I got to imagine 11 W-2s for a specialty cake business is a pretty good size.
I think
Um,
so. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they're all part time.
yeah,
And thankfully they have other jobs, but this is the fun one, right? So,
right.
yeah, it's definitely grown. I don't have like exponential growth on gross income though, because of the way the economy has been.
Mm.
Um, but I'm not going to stop anytime soon because I don't give up easy.
Yeah.
So that's good.
And and yet you've got a couple of new things you're starting, and
Mhm.
you've even got some more exciting stuff that you've talked about for the future. What could those fun and bold things look like in the future that you want to try, Addie?
Yeah, I have thought about long-term goals as well because I
Hmm?
can't work on my feet the rest of my life like this. So eventually, I've got to change the business model a bit. But I have a wholesale license for the state of Illinois, which means that the state inspects my kitchen and I can sell to grocery stores and restaurants and all that good stuff.
Hmm.
So I do sell to restaurants and coffee shops. That's a weekly thing that we do, like cake pops and cake slices and stuff. But I could do grocery stores. I could do whole cakes that are frozen. I could do cookies. I could do cheesecakes, all that good stuff. So at some point, I might pursue that. If I do Iowa, I have to get the FDA involved. So maybe that's a
Hmm.
long term thing. And then we also make cake jars. And it's not something that I invented by any means, but it's basically like a pint of gelato and you just eat it with a spoon. And it's just ready to eat cake layers with filling, buttercream, fruit, all that good stuff. Um, I have a lot of fun coming up with the flavor combos for those. So there's still things that make me excited, thankfully. And I had an idea of doing like a cake jar vending machine at some point.
Hmm.
Kind of like how there's a cupcake place in Chicago, I think is still open. I think it's called Sprinkle. I don't know. They have a vending machine outside their bakery, all day long. You can go and buy a
Yeah.
cupcake from the vending machine. There's even some of them sitting at like the stairways of like a um, train station or something like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, we should just put cake jars in those because then they won't dry out. There's a tight lid on them. I just got it. That's a project from my dad. I told him he can help me find a vending machine. We can try it out. He loves to
Well,
be involved. He helps with a lot of stuff. So having that support system has been so freaking huge.
hmm.
So,
Yeah. Well, that sounds like a vending machine I would definitely be into.
right?
Now, uh, Addie, this has been great, and I got to imagine that anyone with us at this point is hungry. So, how do they find you? How do they find Little Sweets Cake Design?
So I've got a website, Facebook, Instagram. The easiest way is to reach out from the website, and I'm sure we could post that link in the notes too.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, there's a contact page on there, and people just reach out that way. Give me the date of your event if you have something coming up, and then I can tell you if we've got a spot.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
what about that seasonal retail for people who want to stop by? What time is that?
yeah. So I put updates on our Facebook page for that.
Hmm.
And this month it'll be the 12th, 13th, and 14th. And I'm going to have just those 3 days, but it'll be posted, I think, soon on the actual items we're going to have. Because I do have some heart cakes that are going to go in there, like little mini heart cakes that, are good for a date night or, even like 6 to 8 people. I have pre-ordered Valentine's trays that have desserts. That post is up now with the photos for that too. So all the things.
Fun. And do you ship?
I will ship the cake jars actually. Those
Okay.
are those are safe. I don't ship cupcakes or custom cakes. I know there's places that do it. I don't know how. It's got to be frozen with dry ice and the
Yeah.
packaging is just right. But yeah, the cake jars are they're the way to go.
Uh,
So,
All right. I might have to order some of those here once we're done talking. All
yeah, you
right.
can order them on my website actually. So,
Love it. Well, Addie, I really appreciate you being here and sharing your story. To hear about where you came from
Mhm.
baking nights and weekends to building a business through some tough times. Um, your story is just a powerful reminder of the importance of serendipity, right? Of kind of seeing
Yeah.
things lay out in front of you and taking advantage of it, of that support system that you talked about, and that there really is no single path to entrepreneurship, right? There's just a bunch of different ways that we navigate. Um, but it's really been great hearing your story and hearing what you've done to build Little Sweets. So thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, you're welcome. I could talk about it all day long, so happy to do it.
Well, we might have to have you back someday. So
Yeah.
thanks again for being here. And
Awesome.
thank you to everyone listening to Building Loved Businesses. If you enjoyed this episode as much as I did, subscribe and share it with another business owner and help us keep sharing these stories of people building businesses worth loving. I'm Nathan Schock, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.